Welcome back to The Trend, a weekly video series powered by Mortgage Champions, where we examine the trend lines behind the headlines to give you practical takeaways for your business. My name is Jake. I oversee our marketing and digital. I'm here with Mike, who oversees our operations, and Bo, who oversees learning and development. As always, we're going to kick it off with our articles of the week. Mike, you got the first one up for us.
Yes, from NerdWallet, the 2019 Home Buyer Report, we're seeing purchase boom here, and part of that is due to being at a 14-month low on rates, but we are seeing the report show that 36% of Americans are looking to buy a home in the next 5 years, and 24% in the next 12 months. So that is great news.
Awesome.
As we look at that, one thing for loan officers to really consider is having a strategy and a system when it comes to purchase, and to make sure that you're taking an approach of educating your borrowers through that whole process, and making sure that it's kept simple and seamless for them and their experience in buying a home. This will be an amazing year in that. So again, if you guys are looking to develop that system and process, I highly recommend contacting us here at Mortgage Champions, because this is what we do every day. So,
and that's a great point, because borrowers today still hold a ton of misconceptions. Even though there is a ton of information out there, there are so many borrowers who still, I think it's with that report showed that 62% of borrowers still believe that 20% down payment is required. And obviously there's programs down to 3.5%. So a lot of it has to do with just simply educating borrowers on what programs are actually even out there today, so that they're not saving up for years and years and years to get into a home when they could get into a home now or within the next 6 months. So
absolutely.
Yeah, that's a great point. It kind of leads into the article I'm bringing to the table today. Housing Wire writes that millennials have officially, I love this language, officially entered the housing market. We saw in January of 2017 that they officially surpassed Gen X as originating the most new mortgages. By the end of last year, they were responsible for 46% of all new mortgages, compared to 36% for Gen X and just 17% for baby boomers. As of November, officially, apparently, Redfin, Housing Wire, they're all saying that millennials have entered the market. It's what's driving what we're talking about, right? It's what's driving, obviously, the huge desire. I mean, over 50%, you said, in the next 5 years,
Right.
over 20% in the next 12 months, wanting to buy a home. Bo, you're talking about, there's tons of information out there, you know what I mean? But borrowers are still relatively confused on what is available to them with regard to loan programs and benefits and opportunities. I think a lot of that just comes back to the fact that we're shifting to millennial buyers, you know what I mean? So I think there are a couple of key things that loan officers, that lenders can do to understand the shift and kind of match it, if you will. As a loan officer, when you're working with millennials, you have to kind of change your lingo. And I think you also have to change your perspective on how you see yourself, right? You're no longer just a loan officer or a mortgage consultant. You have to see yourself as an advisor. Mike, you hit on it. You have to be educating your borrowers. So I think that's step one. Step two, you really got to change the way that you work. If you're not embracing technology already, you need to be. We are in the era of the digital mortgage, you know what I mean? If your company is offering that to you, take full advantage of it. If not, figure out ways that you can leverage technology with your borrowers to make them have a better experience, an experience that they're more comfortable with, especially as a millennial borrower.
And it's something that's convenient. Like, conveniency is the one of the most important aspects of the mortgage business today.
Yeah.
That's where all of technology is heading, is just to make the process convenient. And you don't need the highest, best technology out there to have a convenient, smooth process. You just need to have good communication. You need to leverage whatever you do have and leverage it in the best way possible.
That's well said. I think another thing you have to do is you have to be present on social media. It's going to be a great lead gen opportunity for you. And it's also a great way to be educating your borrowers as they're entering into the funnel. If you're just putting out, hey, here's my business card, work with me, going to networking events, kind of the traditional approach, you know what I mean?
Yep.
You're going to have a tough time filling your pipeline with millennial buyers who represent, this 20+% who want to buy in the next 12 months. You know what I mean? So start putting out, your company's probably doing it for you. Share the articles that they're already putting out. You know what I mean? Share good information, take the time, do some research, educate your borrowers through social media. The last thing I would say is just work with them, Bo, to your point, they're not familiar with loan programs, so, go the extra mile, if you will. Take some time, help them develop their long-term goals, help them understand what's available to them, and then help them get themselves into the right home. You know, we're seeing that the average purchase point for a millennial is higher than it's been for Gen X. Still a little bit lower than baby boomers, but millennials, I think they're thinking that they have to buy a more expensive home and they have to put more down than they really actually have to. So, I mean, we've said it 100 times now at this point. Educate your borrowers and work with them, go the extra mile.
And
all fair.
Absolutely, and that lack of understanding has created a big obstacle. One of several obstacles, and my article is actually going to bring and balance the positive with a little bit of the negative. So CNBC came out with an article titled "The Number One Obstacle Keeping People from Buying a Home." And that was based off of a Bankrate survey of almost 2,700 people, asking them what their main barriers to home ownership are. And the number one answer came back as inadequate income. I personally thought that it would be student loans and things like that keeping the millennials out, but it's just inadequate income. And the article goes on to give some good advice to borrowers on what to do to make sure that they actually understand the expenses of home ownership, including things like knowing your income and being aware of unexpected expenses that are going to arise, something that we talk a lot about at Mortgage Champions. Some of the other most common barriers to home ownership after not having enough income is not being able to afford a down payment, which is just a lot of misinformation. A lot of people probably can afford it, they just don't know that they can. And then home prices being high or credit not being good enough or some of the other reasons.
Sure.
But people just not understanding the home buying process, what you need, and then also just not really understanding all of the expenses that come with home ownership. Now, Deborah Kearns, who is an analyst at Bankrate, actually said that you need to look at what is your list of monthly expenses, including what a lender doesn't consider when assessing your eligibility for a loan, and you need to take into account all of the other bills that are going to come up, which is such a great point. You know, we talk about this a lot at Mortgage Champions. It's always been a trend that people buy homes that they end up not being able to afford. And the problem is that most of the time, they don't realize that, and they're not even thinking that they're making any risky purchases. A lot of people really do think that they can afford the homes, but then other expenses pop up when they're actually inside the home that make finances very tight for them. We've actually seen reports where 25% of American homeowners and 34% of first-time buyers say that they actually no longer felt financially secure after buying their current home. And that's because the payments are a lot more difficult to manage when you actually move into the place. So that means that loan officers, it's their job to truly inform and educate the borrowers on everything to expect when buying a home, what all the programs are, all the mortgage side of things. But then also when you're in the home, what could arise? And that just means educating all the time. So if somebody has a young family, you need to discuss daycare expenses with them or babysitting expenses. If someone has long distance commute, you not only need to talk about the monetary cost of that, but also the time away from home. You need to discuss that with them. Same with, if people are buying their first home, talk about moving expenses. Talk about the expenses of furnishings or any home upgrades or home improvements that they're going to do, house maintenance costs. All of these things are things that there's so much going on in the home buying process. And I know that you were looking into buying a home last year. There's so much to consider, not only just the school districts and where you're going to live and the affordability of it all, but then you have to look, 1, 2, 3, 5, 10 years down the road and say, okay, what else could pop up that could throw this off? And the main thing that we know in today's market is that the best way for a loan officer to excel and to do well in 2019 is repeat and referral business. And the only way to generate that is if you have people that aren't just happy with the mortgage process, but are happy with being in the home after the process. If you can go back to your borrowers a year later and they're still just as excited about you as they were when they closed the loan, that's what your goal is, and that's where you're actually going to find real growth and real results to your business.
Well, and you saying that is really great because I think if I were a loan officer listening to this, I'd think, oh my gosh, that is a lot more than you generally think when you have that conversation about a mortgage. But the benefit, we see this as a challenge to home buyers getting in, but the benefit for a loan officer is if you actually have this in-depth conversation and you work through that process, you are giving something that almost no one else is, and you're developing that loyalty with the borrower, and to your point, developing that referral business as well. So I think even though it is a challenge for home buyers coming into the market, it is a great opportunity for lenders and loan officers.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fair to say if you're not with the numbers of people who are desiring to buy a home now, if you're not filling your pipeline, you're probably fishing in the wrong ponds, right? So like, first of all, figure out like what pond you need to be in. You need to be working with millennials, but then secondly, to Bo's point, to Mike's point, you know what I mean? Like the reason why you go that extra mile is, Dale talks about the 9-10 rule, right? On average, every person who buys a home in the United States is going to go through 9 mortgage transactions over the course of their lifetime. We're talking about purchases and even specifically first home purchases. You know what I mean? Yeah. So you've got potentially 8 more transactions on the line if you do this one well. And to Bo's point, they're happy 5 years down the road when they're ready to move on to that next house or refi or whatever that looks like. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So it's worth it. You know what I mean? You're playing a long game here, which is wise.
It's great.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Good stuff.
Definitely.
Yeah, so we highly encourage you, if you want to learn more about the purchase process and if you want to get more into that side of the business or you're already doing it and you want to get better at it, please contact us here at Mortgage Champions. Dale, this is what he does all day, every day, so we would love to partner with you and help you in that.
Yeah, definitely. If you're looking for more information, you can always visit us at dalevermillion.com. We have blogs, we have content. You can reach out to us and contact our team. Anything we can do for you, we are here for you. It's why we sit here on a Friday talking about articles of the week, trying to give you the information that you need to have a successful business. Until next week, we'll see you soon. Stay trendy. Take care.
Thanks.